Coming up, we're connecting you with the creativity and culture in your community and celebrating the spooky season in Western New England.
We want to make sure everybody has fun, but we want to make sure everybody gets a scare.
We'll explore the traditions behind a local celebration of Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead.
In a very literal sense, Dia de los Muertos is the return of your loved one's spirits back to the earthly realm.
And an immersive theatrical production uncovers ghosts from the past.
We wanted to kind of call the ghosts out of the building.
So you cling to the things they sold you.
And if we can put someone in the middle of all that rather than outside of it, it can be a very cool show.
Join us for those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point, your source for creativity, culture, and community. I'm Tony Dunn in for Zydelise Bauer. Every week we explore all that Western New England has to offer. And as it's officially the spooky season, today we're coming to you from the old burying ground at historic Deerfield. It's a place rich in history, with some grave markers dating back to the 1600s. We'll learn more about the old burying ground a little later in the program, but we start off our show today in the Berkshires. For those who love the spooky season, once the calendar turns to October, the Halloween spirit kicks in and the decorations go up. This fall, you may be hard-pressed to find anyone happier to see the calendar change than the folks at Jiminy Peak Mountain Resort. The last time they were able to celebrate Halloween was 3 years ago, but they're back this year, and Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan traveled to Hancock, Massachusetts to experience their haunted 13 Nights at Jiminy event for himself.
The last time that signs like these were posted around the Jiminy Peak Mountain Resort was back in October of 2019, which for many may seem like long ago enough that they forget just what 13 Nights is. For those who only know Jiminy Peak as one of the more popular ski destinations in Massachusetts, here's a quick refresher. Since 2012, for 13 nights in the month of October, when the sun goes down over this peaceful village, the lines form, the ghouls come out, the haunting begins, and the people who organize it all take it pretty seriously.
There's a group of us, small group of us, that the core group that have done the build every year and the planning and the themes. We kind of live it year round. It's one of those things we talk about year round. We were forced into a 2-year hiatus, but now that we're back going, we're super excited. The hiring part was one of the easiest we've ever done. Every year, the first day I open applications, I get 8 or 10 right away. And when I interview those people, they're people like myself that are just big time Halloween fans. You know, they're the type of people that would wait in a freezer for 20 minutes so their mother would open the hood and you could get that good scare. These are people with a passion for Halloween, so it's really easy for us to hire a good staff that want to take us on that journey.
The haunt features 3 mazes for visitors to pass through, 2 of which can be found here at the base of the mountain. And with this perfectly good and functioning chairlift that can seat up to 6, why not use it to get to another maze?
The chairlift is a big part of it. It's dark. A lot of people have never ridden a chairlift in the dark, and 99% of people have never ridden a chairlift down the mountain. It's a unique feeling, so that by itself kind of lends itself to the scary part, but we've got 8 or 9 actors up there that are scattered through the woods anywhere between start and the finish. We've got ghillie suits, there's some actors in there, we've got flamethrowers, building structures, quite a bit of stuff up there.
While we still had some daylight and the ghouls and goblins were still in hiding, we decided to head up there ourselves and get a sneak peek.
As soon as I heard that there was a chairlift involved in this and that one of the haunts was at the top of the mountain, I just had to do it. And the best part is I get to take the chairlift down, so that will be really cool.
Getting a look around up here with some daylight gives the course a different perspective and keeps me from getting scared out of my wits by having someone jump out of the bushes. It also allowed for a chance to soak in the phenomenal views from this vantage point. And as Jason mentioned earlier, the trip down on the chairlift was very unique. The idea for utilizing this feature was actually one that they had borrowed from their neighbors to the north.
Our sister resort, Cranmore Mountain in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, had a haunt called the Gulag. That was a really big hit, and they did the same type of thing. They rode the chairlift up, and we kind of went up, a group, 4 of us went up from Jiminy Peak and visited it in 2011 and came back and talked to our bosses and said, we have to do this here. You know, we're 350 miles away, we're not in competition. This is a great thing. We've done it ever since.
And it still continues to bring people back after their 2-year hiatus. This includes children and adults. But even though a good time is the main goal, it can be a little spooky. So they recommend kids be at least 10 years old to participate.
The main thing here, we want to make sure everybody has fun, but we want to make sure everybody gets a scare. You know, it's a super fun. Our actors take pride in what they do. You don't always get that perfect scare. Sometimes somebody sneaks up on you in the wrong time, but we go to extreme measures to make sure everybody gets the same experience. So I think we do pretty well.
Every week, Connecting Point explores the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England, but it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content. And in this week's digital exclusive, Jiminy Peak's Mountain Services Director Jason Griffin discusses the history behind the mountain resort's 13 Nights at Jiminy Halloween attraction.
On 13 special nights each October, the sheep used to disappear into the mountains, and the farmers didn't know if the sheep were running away from them or running towards something.
You can find that digital exclusive online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, is a holiday with indigenous roots that originated several thousand years ago in what is now Mexico and is celebrated the day after Halloween. One of the traditions involves the creation of an ofrenda, an altar where community members can welcome back the souls of their loved ones who have passed. For the past few years, artist Jason Montgomery has organized local ofrendas, and Zeidelise Bauer spoke to him to learn more about their meaning and the holiday behind them.
Dia de los Muertos primarily is a holiday that originated in southern Mexico amongst particular indigenous groups there. It was a very local holiday. There's actually multiple days. It's Dies de los Muertos. It usually begins on the midnight of the 28th with Dia de los Angelitos, or Day of the Little Angels. It's for children who had lost their lives. And then it moves into All Souls Day, and then finally, you know, Dia de los Muertos proper.
One of the pivotal traditions of the holiday is the ofrenda. Can you explain what an ofrenda is and what it entails?
So an ofrenda translated means offering. And the ofrenda is the altar that you are putting up to your loved ones who have passed on. In a very literal sense, Dia de los Muertos is the return of your loved one's spirits back to the earthly realm. They literally come and visit you, and they come and into your household, and they commune with you. And so the ofrenda, the offering, is to them. It is to your loved ones. It is normally 3 levels. It usually starts with the base level, which is sustenance, because, you know, we believe that in the afterlife, there's no food, there's no water. So there's a bowl of water to help quench their thirst. The next level would be the things that they enjoyed about the world, you know, toys. There's usually a little bit of booze, some tobacco, all of those things that they would enjoy and that they would love to see. And then on the top level is their photograph to remind them that we haven't forgotten them, and so they can find their way. So it's a way to have the people that you love come back and be a part of them, and you remember the things that they loved and the things that they maybe didn't love, and you remember all of them as a person, and you get to be with them for a couple days.
Looking through all of the pictures from last year and everybody just submitting the photos of their loved ones that they have lost, and as you were saying, the offerings, how does it make you feel as a Chicano starting to celebrate Dia de los Muertos later on, but how does it make you feel to see the community come together and just be able to offer them a space for that remembrance and life?
It honestly is the most fulfilling thing as a community arts and engagement person I think I have ever done. It really, truly, you know, I can't begin to describe how meaningful it is. There was one individual in particular, they had shared a photo last year of their child who passed away, and I didn't know whose child it was. And so I come from there were 7 Gomez women that my grandmother's, there were 7 of them. And so I just kind of put this child with my people because I was like, hey, you guys like babies, look after her. And I was telling this individual as I was walking them to the ofrenda about this child and about, you know, how I didn't know whose people it was. So I put him with my people, and the young woman I was with broke down crying because it was hers. And, you know, we had a long conversation about how no one's really gone and how we're all kind of connected. And it was one of the most meaningful moments of my artistic life. And, you know, I will do this forever as long as I possibly can, just based on the joy that one moment brought.
Immersive theater removes the stage and puts the audience within the performance itself. Franklin County's Eggtooth Productions recently offered theatergoers a strange and mysterious immersive story just perfect for this time of year, as producer Dave Fraser discovered when he experienced their production of Deus Ex Machina, which uncovered some of the ghosts of the past at the Shea Theater Art Center in Turners Falls.
Powerful, right? Ritual, magic, possibility of magic. This is the theater.
Described as a love letter to the Shea, Eggtooth Productions kicked off its fall season with a remounting of the 2017 immersive theater production Deus Ex Machina. Audience members were given a chance to pull back the curtain and get a glimpse into the colorful history of the theater that opened in 1927.
The theater's a very storied space, and we wanted to kind of call the ghosts out of the building. I think a few of our actual characters are based quite literally on people's senses or ghost stories from times past, but then also just the layers of history just want us to call us back into these eras. And if we can put someone in the middle of all that rather than outside of it, it can be a very cool show.
People with no talent and lots of pretensions, all they know how to do is attack people with real talent.
As an immersive experience, the theater's 330 seats remained empty during the performance. Rather, the show begins at the back door as audience members are broken into small groups and take part in the show through movement.
It's kind of an amazing experience for audience members to see all the secret passageways and all the ways the theatrical magic is made. Like, you get to go backstage, you get to go under the stage. It's just a very experiential way to enjoy art.
So you cling to the things they sold you.
With an intimate one-to-one cast-to-audience ratio and the entire Shea Theater as their set, participants experience a series of sublime engagements with an array of characters inspired by the building's storied history as a 1920s vaudeville house, to a 70s hippie commune, and to the theater and community space that it is today.
There are only 18 people per show, so there are actually more cast members than audience members, which makes it easy for us to have some one-on-one experiences with them, and it's a very intimate and personal theatrical experience.
In this play, I am specifically the earth ghosts, although there are many ghosts that are activated during this time. So I, in this show, have my face covered. So rather than an individual character, I'm really embodying the fabric and a spirit that is kind of emanating from the walls of this building.
I'm the clown, which basically means I'm the comic relief. So I'm kind of an agent of chaos. If you think of Harpo Marx, that is who I base myself on a lot of the time.
At the conclusion of the show, cast members greet the audience in the lobby to share the experience of their night.
I didn't know what to expect. I'll say that this was our first time coming to an immersive theater performance, and we were maybe a little bit intimidated, but it was such a delight.
I thought the sights, the sounds, the music, the movement was just beautiful and haunting and funny. They just sort of captured the Shea and gave it to us. It was beautiful.
After the coronavirus forced many theaters to go dark and arts groups to disband, producers and directors are finally gearing up to welcome live audiences back to the stage.
There's this middle space of communities full of wonderful, talented people that want to make work that are in and around their communities, but also come in with a level of skill and training that really befit what we could bring. So it's very important. And I think it's also one of the last big live forums for people to meet each other in this post-pandemic and very digital time.
So we've been through a lot in the last few years, and our performers and our creators have had no opportunities to create. Really, the bottom has dropped out of the theater and art in general, and certainly performances in general. And so to come back is great.
For the past few years, the famed Stockbridge estate, known as Naumkeag, has been transformed into a Halloween oasis. Every October, the trustees of reservations decorate the hillside property with flowers, lights, and over 1,000 carved pumpkins to give visitors the ultimate All Hallows Eve experience. If you couldn't make it this year, have no fear. Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan brings us there.
It's early afternoon in late October on the 8-acre property in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, known as Naumkeag. Right now, aside from the staff putting on some finishing touches for the pumpkin display, or some hanging carved jack-o'-lanterns gently blowing in the breeze, all is quiet on this palatial estate. It doesn't take long, though, for that silent serenity to be replaced by the sounds of parents and children making their way along these pumpkin-decorated paths. And while the carvings of Star Wars characters and a witch's cauldron that boils over with smoke-filled bubbles may be a big draw for the little ones, I suspect it doesn't take a lot of arm twisting to get the adults to come out this way.
It's wonderful. They have pumpkins and chrysanthemums, all fall colors. It's gorgeous, and they're all through the grounds, and they have extraordinary lighting.
My first trek along the trails was during the daylight hours, so I still had a little time to soak in the natural beauty of this display before they turned on that extraordinary lighting. As day turns to night, the transformation from New England autumn walk through the woods to the coolest trick-or-treating trail ever begins to take shape. That one-time seemingly harmless kettle blowing out bubbles earlier in the day has suddenly turned itself into something resembling a volcano by night. The very welcoming Chinese garden by day becomes a Gothic playground as the daylight fades. And none of this is by accident.
It's kind of two different experiences here, right? We have our daytime experience, which we have a lot more younger families coming to, so they can see it in the day, get their kids home in bed before the sun goes down. So we try to decorate that with a lot of horticulture, fall decoration, pumpkins, gourds, and then the lights go out and you can't see as much of that, but then you really get to enjoy the element of the lights that we hang around the property as well.
From across the farmland, we can see cars lining up to turn down the long driveway to 5 Prospect Hill Road. The erstwhile property of Joseph and Caroline Choate has now become something of a destination spot for visitors from near and far for several events throughout the year. For the month of October, it turns itself into a sort of Halloween wonderland, and that's thanks in no small part to the tireless efforts put forth by the trustees.
Every year we try to make it bigger, better, make it feel fresh and new for the people who are returning. And if you're coming here for the first time, we want you to take away that Naumkeag and the trustees is a place that you can come for fun, family entertainment, no matter what the season.
Cemeteries naturally take on an increased interest as Halloween approaches. A visit to one can not only get you in the mood for ghosts and goblins, it can also provide a great lesson in history. And in honor of the spooky season, producer Dave Fraser visited 2 of the oldest final resting places in the region to learn more about these special and sacred places.
Halloween is a time when we sort of dare ourselves to think about death. We dare ourselves to think about the mechanisms of death, the meaning of death.
It was different back then. So the English settlers were Puritans, and they believed in predestination. So when you're dead, you're dead. Your body's just a husk. The burying ground is located at the end of Albany Road in the village of what is now called Old Deerfield. Grave markers range in date from the late 1600s to the early 1800s, and they change over time. The earliest graves were probably marked with field stones or wooden markers, and those have since all withered away. And there are about 266 stones, 265 stones that are remaining in the burying ground. The oldest one is dated 1695. There are many stories of the old buildings being haunted in the village of Old Deerfield, including the Deerfield Inn. There's a few people, resident ghosts, who are very friendly in the inn. The burying ground doesn't have so many stories about hauntings or spookiness, but recently there were people there at 4 in the morning doing an investigation, so who knows?
This is the beautiful Springfield Cemetery, which was opened in 1841. And at that point, it was considered what they called as a rural cemetery, because none of the houses, none of these buildings existed at that time. If you come up to the cemetery, you come up the hill and you're close to Pine Street, that's where you're going to see this whole group of stones that date from the 1700s. And they're pretty remarkable because at that point, they put a lot of information, even to the point of explaining to the reader not only who the person was, but how they passed. If you're involved in any sort of local history, if you're curious about where your community came from, visit a cemetery like this. This is still a place that people come to walk in, and they come to think in, and they come to just enjoy a quiet moment. It may have nothing to do with who is buried here or that they're coming to visit a particular grave. It's all about the peace that actually this place represents.
Autumn brings with it changing leaves, chilly nights, and of course apple picking, pumpkin carving, and corn mazes. And through the months of September and October, you can stop at Hicks Family Farm in Charlemont for one of the very best. With family-friendly fun by day and a frighteningly good haunted time by night, this corn maze has become an annual tradition for many. Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan traveled down the Mohawk Trail to bring us the story.
Every Saturday and Sunday from the first weekend in September to the last day of October, visitors travel from near and far to the town of Charlemont, Massachusetts to be a part of this fall festival. The corn maze that began as a means of supplementing income has now turned into an annual tradition.
My family went out of the dairy business, and we wanted to continue to keep the farm going. So we did go into the beef business. We do have 35 head of cattle, but we needed somehow to, support the farm. So we came up with the idea of starting up a corn maze.
Of course, the fun goes beyond just the corn maze. There's a giant game of checkers available to renew a sibling rivalry. Mini golf, where a dad can teach his daughter the finer points of putting, or not. They've got baby goats whose cute factor breaks the scale, and for many of the local kids, this place is their rite of passage.
Yeah, I've been doing it since I was really young, so probably like 5 years. And originally I just did the one during the day because I didn't really want to get scared because I was so young. But now I work in the night one and I scare people, and it's pretty good.
Yes, it's true that when the sun goes down, these winding paths where the kids and adults get to have fun doing a scavenger hunt during the day turn into one of the spookier haunted corn mazes in the Commonwealth. But the haunting doesn't start until early October, and since the maze changes shape every year, none of this happens without a plan.
Around March or April, we'll get together on a rainy day and think of, some different paths, different directions where we want to have the people go. And, we kind of map it out on a piece of paper. And come, June, we plant the corn and come out and process the paths.
And the processor-in-chief is none other than Paul Hicks' sister, Joanne.
I come out when the corn is just this high, and I just start making paths. I do have a map that I work with. If some corn doesn't, come up in one spot, I might move the path over. I got a little John Deere tractor with a blade on it, and that's why there's no sharp angles, everything's circles. And I start around 4th of July.
Luckily, it's a labor of love, because it wasn't always this easy when they planted their first cornfields years ago.
my brother says, "Jojo, we need a corn maze." And I went, "Well, okay." So I just, I only had a hoe and rake. And I'm out here every morning by 6 before it gets too hot. And I like making things.
Aside from making these trails, Joanne is also responsible for making all of the signs along the way, including the jokes that the maze wanderers pass by in their quest to find everything on the scavenger hunt list. My original plan was to stick around until nightfall for the haunted maze, but the scavenger hunt has been plenty of fun, and I'm not sure my heart can take being scared tonight.
And that does it for this edition of Connecting Point. Remember, you can always find all of the stories that you saw in this episode, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and so much more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Our thanks to Historic Deerfield for hosting us today. And please be sure to join us again every week right here for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm Tony Dunn in for Zydelise Bauer. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the spooky season.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.